time, any folks in opposition, and if you could come up, board will hear from you.
Good morning, and thank you for the opportunity to speak. I'm glad she did acknowledge the letter. I was tracked down not too long ago because it wasn't acknowledged, but I was informed that there is a letter out there with over 80 signatures that include majority artists in opposition to this cancellation. As you mentioned, I am a city resident and a supporter of the arts community, but the lens I want to share today is that from a board member. So oftentimes when you sit on the outside, the information that you get is from the media and not that from sitting on the inside. One thing that I want to express is that I'm deeply concerned about the lack of connection that has been brought and actually brought us to this point. One, building on shared goals will take us a long way, and I don't see that happening as a board member. I do want to echo, Mr. Mayor, a statement that you made on October the 16th that says, I encourage the board, organization leadership, and the transition committee to use this moment to refocus on BOPA's core mission and use this opportunity to envision a future that centers supporters, Baltimore's artists and creatives, and particularly that statement of envisioning a future that centers and supports Baltimore's artists and creatives. When people think of BOPA, technically it's really two organizations in one. You have BOPA, who's focused on the art community, and you have BFAI that's focused on the festivals. When we endeavored, or the board as a whole, this interim committee, we took on a one-year commitment about 7.5 months ago with the task of organizing, knowing what was a challenging structure that had been set before. We had a new CFO, we had we had a new CEO and 3 CEOs within 6 years, which is very challenging in itself. So the board understood this, and we started taking paths forward, specifically focusing on financials, operational efficiency, and a strategic path forward. One of the things that I know from professional experience is that limited information generates a perception of stagnation. However, the progress that was really being made was a solid foundation to move us forward. And I want to give 2 specific examples. In September, there was a media story released that said Broke BOPA wants $1.8 million in bailout. At that time, BOPA was working with the city on $847,000 of outstanding accounts receivable from the prior fiscal year. At the same time, BOPA had received notification in July of 2024 that they will receive $500,000 in ARPA funds to support the arts community. In addition, at that period, BOPA had completed 70% of the contract's value, but had only received 25% of the contract itself. So if I was to convert that into dollars, we're basically saying that at the time that this statement was released, BOPA was outstanding $900,000 of their contracted value, but was only paid 25%. So if we add that to the $846,000 outstanding from the prior year, in addition to the $500,000 of the ARPA funds, we're talking about $2.2 million of outstanding funds. So when BOPA reached out to the city, this wasn't an ask for funds for a bailout. It was a transparency signal that if we don't get these funds, we're going to run into a cash flow issue. So instead of using this as an opportunity of frustration and unproductive reactions, I would look at it as an opportunity for more collaboration and constructive dialogue. One, it could have served as an opportunity that as contracts go forward, we look for opportunity to align the payments with the milestones of the contract and not just doing quarterly payments. In addition, it also served as an opportunity for personnel to actually sit down and evaluate the contract ongoing, not just randomly, but as these milestones were occurring, evaluating the cost associated with it, also evaluating the payment instruction and any additional outstanding funds. Another example that I wanted to throw out there is that as the interim board came on, we understood the post-COVID challenges, and as I mentioned, 3 CEOs in 6 years, which signaled for us that business as usual was not going to be the same. So at this time, we look for opportunities to change this. One being the rollout of an advisory board, not just including the interim board, but the artist community and other stakeholders that have a connection with arts, economics, and education. At that time, we also developed transition teams within the board to actually focus on key evaluations and areas. However, to our surprise, we received a cancellation of contracts. For us, we look at this as an opportunity for more advisory engagement versus just a cancellation. And specific examples of this would include allowing us to roll out these advisory boards so that we can strengthen community trust and support and better understand the needs of the arts community. And secondly, be creative. This could be used as a tool to address some of these issues from an arts perspective that the city has challenges with. Mental health support, crime reduction support, economic opportunities, because we do know our artists, there is a disconnect or gap when you talk about economic stability, and also enhancing our education system. My recommendation, in addition to these letters that I'm understanding exist, is that I strongly recommend that BOPA, this timeline on canceling the contract, be extended, primarily to allow for three key things. One, to identify and incorporate the arts community and have a clear plan. Two, for the city to identify what are some key performance indicators that need to be addressed and measured going forward, and so that agencies across the city can come together and come up with a cohesive plan that benefits economically the city.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Sims. Who else? Are there any other folks who want to speak on behalf of opposition for BOPA? You can speak, sure, if you would like to speak.
Mr. Mayor, Council President, and other members of the Board of Estimates, I have to share that this day is rather disappointing. Because I came to this role committed to partnership, committed to making a difference, and committed to working together with the administration to actually right the ship of an organization that, through numerous sources, was concerning, challenged, and the like. I liken that to taking a hard right turn with the Titanic when forced with a 7-month timeline for improving a really challenged situation. But what I'll also share is that I also have concerns around the alignment of the administration with me and that goal from the very beginning. It starts off with one of the things that was, for me, a non-starter, which was the status of the contract. My understanding prior to joining the organization was that the contract was safe. And then on 2 days before my first day, I was informed that the contract would be terminated and they wanted to renegotiate, that there would not be an automatic renegotiation, which is okay. But the timeline for a 1-year contract being extremely truncated, not getting a draft contract until the end of May, not being able to come before this body on the regular agenda because it was not submitted to us. Our first negotiation didn't happen until the 12th of June, which is after the deadline, forced us into a very tough position. But you also have to look at the financial situation of the organization. When I came into the organization, I realized or found out that there had not been a reconciliation of our books since June of 2023. That means that there was not an actuals-based budget for me to work from to determine what needed to be paid, how things needed to be paid, what the financial situation of the organization was. We brought on board an outside accounting firm that then looked at those numbers, looked at what was going on, and that is where we found out what our cash flow and cash position was. I will reiterate, the conversation that happened on the 18th of September was not a request for a bailout. It was a request for a conversation with the administration as how best to move forward in this situation. What is very concerning to me is that what is not being discussed is that, one, the organization realized that we had been doing too much with too little for too long. When you look at the fact that the city pays us $2.4 million, 2.7 if you include dollars that are allocated for Creative Baltimore Fund, but it costs $5.3 million to do the work that we do. In addition to the 5 events that we are asked to produce and raise funds for, plus raise dollars to support the arts community, that is very, very difficult to handle. And so our position was, when we shared the financial position of the organization, was looking at taking away some of the things that were on the contract, including the production of fireworks and the like, so that we could focus on being the Arts Council for the City of Baltimore. My understanding is that with the termination of this contract, that also means that you would be terminating us as the Arts Council of Baltimore. And for lack of a better way to put it, it's really not fair to have not given this body and this president and this staff the actual time to right the ship, to look at a better way to do the business of this organization, absent any real dialogue or conversation. There's a number of other things that I could share if you have any other questions about the financial state of the organization, but I just wanted to say that.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you very much for your time. Thank you, everybody. I make a motion to approve.
Second.
One technical note, neither of the opponents identified themselves for the record.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Rachel Graham, Chief Executive Officer, Baltimore Office of Promotion in the Arts.
And
Angela Sims, interim board treasurer.
any no questions?
Thank you.
There's a motion on the floor.
Second.
There's a motion. It's been properly seconded. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say nay. The ayes have it. This item is approved. As there's no new business before the desk of this board, we will adjourn. The next regular scheduled meeting of the Board of Estimates will occur on Wednesday, November the 20th at 9 a.m. I'd like to thank everyone for joining in. Baltimore, we absolutely love you.